Hello viewers, today we'll understand what vicarious liability is, but before understanding vicarious liability, I would like to discuss the types of liabilities. The first one is vicarious liability, the second one being joint liability, followed by the third one, that is the strict liability, and the fourth one is contributory liability, and the last one is inchoate liability. But today we'll focus on vicarious liability, and the rest of the liabilities we will discuss in our upcoming videos. Moving ahead, now the meaning of vicarious liability or the doctrine of vicarious liability is when a person is held responsible for the act and omission of another person, which basically would represent the relationship between a master and his servant, for example, a bus driver and a bus conductor. If a bus conductor drives the bus with or without the consent of the bus driver, then in such a situation the bus driver will be held responsible in case of any adversaries. Vicarious liability generally arises under the below mentioned circumstances, wherein the relationship can be categorized as principal and agent, under which a principal will always be held liable for any act of the agent, whether he commits a fraud or he commits any other unlawful act. This usually occurs in cases of property where a person hires an agent to sell his property. The second one is master and servant, which we have already discussed above. The third one is people under partnership. Under partnership, each and every partner is vicariously liable for the acts of another partner, as every partner is an agent of another partner. Vicarious liability is also known as secondary liability or joint liability as per the common law. Moving further, vicarious liability is a part of tort because such acts are considered to be tortious in nature, for which a person, or as per the doctrine of vicarious liability, a person who even after not being involved into the act will be punished according to the provisions of Indian Penal Code 1860. The rule of vicarious liability is justified by two Latin maxims: respondet superior, which means let the master answer, and the second one being qui facet per alium facet per se, which means he who acts through other acts himself. Now we will discuss the provisions under the Indian Penal Code 1860, which provides various categories in which vicarious liability is involved. Under section 149, it provides for vicarious liability, wherein any offense that has been committed by any member of an unlawful assembly with a common object will be deemed guilty at the time of prosecution, because every person who was a member of such assembly was aware about such offense which is likely to be committed. The next section is section 154, which holds owners or occupiers of land or person having or claiming an interest in the land who will be held criminally liable for occurrence of any unlawful assembly or riot on their land wherein they have proven their intentional failure by not seeking help by providing such information to the public authority, or showing their incapability in taking adequate measures to prevent such occurrence. Vicarious liability has been fixed on the owners or occupiers of such land on the assumption that such people, by the virtue of their position or power, could have controlled the happening of such event on their property, or they could have dispersed such gathering if their object became illegal. Moving ahead, under section 155, it fixes vicarious liability on the owner or occupier of the land or persons claiming interest in such land for the act or omission of their managers or agents in a situation where a riot has taken place or an unlawful assembly has gathered. Section 156 imposes personal liability on the managers or agents of such owners or occupiers of land on whose property a riot took place or an unlawful assembly has gathered. Moving ahead, Section 268 and Section 269 exclusively deals with public nuisance, wherein a master or agent is made vicariously liable for the public nuisance committed by a servant. The last section for the day is Section 499, which makes the master vicariously liable for the publication of the libel by his servant, which is also a category of defamation. I hope you have understood the concept of vicarious liability and the sections which are provided under the IPC. Please like and subscribe our channel.